that's what all of those stories are. You were greeted with an opportunity to greet a new version of you. And instead of making yourself wrong or going against it or even stopping and looking at the opportunities, you just said, well, I'm just going to take the next right step and see what happens. And I
Yeah.
think that's where people they just get stopped up. They stop when they are greeted with an opportunity because it seems too big or it seems too small or it seems unrealistic or like a pipeline dream or XYZ. Like, there are so many people who put names to their limitations. Like they just limit themselves. And every time when you were greeted with it, when you were greeted with the opportunity to meet a new version of yourself, you're like, uh, I'm just going to take the step and see where it goes. And, I think one of the things that you and I talked about is that the graveyards are filled with stories. There's more stories in the graveyards. Hi, welcome to Say More Words, a podcast that was created to emphasize the human experience through stories. I hope that you come here to learn, to expand, and most importantly, learn how to say more words. Speak your story, speak your truth, boo boo. We're so happy you're here. All right, beautiful people. Welcome back to Say More Words, and I am super excited. One, it is our last podcast episode for the year, and I am super excited to introduce you to my friend Eric Pederson. But before we introduce Eric we have Eric introduce himself. Good gosh. See, like this is the last episode of the year, right? Like my brain is completely fried. It's the week in between Christmas and New Year's. Like I don't even know what day it is. Well, I do because it's Monday and we're back, but like, whew, and I
We'll
speak for
get
a
there.
living, right? So I apologize. We're going to let Eric introduce himself in a minute. But first, Eric, tell us what the song of the day is.
All right. I love this question because I think music people can connect to in like so many different various states of their life. I mean, if we think about ourselves as teenagers, we're like, oh, music was so powerful. And we kind
Yep.
of picked out like I was big into skate music at that time. And then like your music taste transitions. And for me, a lot of the times it's really just dependent on my mood at the time. But I would say for like the past 7 years, there's always one song that I go back to, and I have yet to find anybody that's ever heard of it. So
Okay.
if you've heard of it, I'm going to be impressed.
Okay.
But have you heard of the band called Snow Patrol?
Yes.
Okay. They have an album from 2018 with a song called Empress.
I've never heard it.
It's going to be our song of the day for it.
Okay. I'm
Throw it on your
excited.
list
It's going to be put
because
on.
it's for me, it holds a lot of and we'll get into this later, but
Yeah.
for me, this holds a lot of personal relevance because it actually pulled me through a very significantly difficult part of my life.
Yeah.
The album almost dropped to the day when something massively traumatic happened in my life. And this album, I always just continually go back to, and like I look at how that pulled me through some of that. But Empress, the just kind of the overarching theme of it is just like this: you have this emotion, and it's new to you, and you don't really know how to experience it because you've never had it before. Like the opening line is, "You're angry, but you don't know how to be that yet." And it kind of talks about how you feel like you're alone in this isolation or this fear or this anger. And when you actually stop to just live in that emotion, you realize that everybody else is just human too. And they're all kind of going through the same thing as you are. So reach out to these people. And then at the end of it, the last kind of driving anthem of it is it's all so damn simple. Like we're all stuck in our head so
Yeah.
much. It's just so damn simple. If you just stop, recognize it, and live in it, you'll realize it's just easy. Everybody else is going through the same thing. Everybody's human, but it's just a really good, positive, upbeat song. But yeah,
I
Empress
love
by
it.
Snow Patrol.
I love that. One of my favorite concepts that I talk about when I'm on stage is how you're not so special and people hate it. And I love in the crowd because I get people who just like stare at me like, how dare you? How dare this person who's supposed to be motivating us come up here and say, like, you're not special? And I'm like, you're not so special to be the only one.
Yeah,
And it's not that, like, it's not hard when you open up and talk about it. Like, when you open the stage, you set the stage, and you just realize you're not the only one. And that makes it a little bit easier. I'm excited to listen to it. I'm going to play it immediately when we're done.
but listen to the whole album.
Okay.
Typically, my other answer nine times out of 10 is another Snow Patrol song called Just Say Yes. Like that's kind of their big anthem of like, just say yes to opportunities, to love, to emotion, to feeling. But
Mm,
Empress, I had to go with that one just because it's so poignant.
I love it. Well, friends, Eric is a new friend of mine, and I got connected with him through my friend Becky, who I've known since I was like 14, since before the dawn of time. It feels like forever. And Eric, the first time I had a conversation with him, I was just like, I was captivated. We had scheduled an online coffee chat, and it was scheduled for like 30 minutes or an hour. I don't even remember. But 2.5 hours go by. And we're like, oh crap, we've
We should
got to
probably
go
wrap
do,
this up.
we should do other things with our lives today. So I wanted to introduce you to him, and I wanted you to have the opportunity to kind of listen to him and his story and his just just listen to him, very similar to a lot of my other guests that we've had on. He's just captivating in the way that he talks. And so Eric, I want to take this opportunity for you to introduce us to you. Who is Eric Pederson?
Yeah, I think that's a fascinating question because I never know how to answer it.
Yeah.
One of the questions that, and I'll kind of parlay that, and hopefully that kind of guides us towards the right direction. But on the surface, like I'm the CEO of an AV company. Like that's just, if you look at my resume, that's what I am. But when
Mhm.
I interview people, I actually do that same question when we're looking for salespeople or looking for people to hire. Instead of saying, "Tell me about yourself," I turn it around and say, "How did you get here?"
Mm.
And that catches people off guard because they're like, "Well, I've had some people quite literally go, "Well, I drove my car." Like they missed the point of
Of
the
the whole
question.
question.
And the question, like my intention behind it is like, how did you get here to this chair in this coffee shop, sitting here talking to me? And it really kind of gets the wheels turning. And the more I talk to people, the more I love learning about their history and their background and all of the things that happen because um, there's so many things that lead us to where we are in life. And I think what really connected you and I is like that mutual sharing of like how we navigated all of these really interesting challenges in our life to get to where we are. I was sitting there thinking about that this morning as I was pouring my coffee and sitting here kind of prepping for our show today. It's like, how did I get here? And that's a recurring question that I ask myself in
Mm.
every situation that I'm at is what did I do? And not that I'm, like you just said, I'm nobody special. But I'm not. I'm no one special. I just happen to have had a series of events happen in my life that have led me to where I'm at. So to answer your question, I born and raised in Wisconsin. I'm an educator by profession, but I didn't last long in the classroom. And I kind of fell into education by accident because my whole family was educators. But when I was a kid, all I ever wanted to do was fly fighter jets. It's literally all I ever wanted to do. If you ask my parents when I was a kid, that's all I was doing is running around with toy airplanes and talking about how one day I was going to be a fighter pilot. And I got to, as a kid, as a teenager, I got to hang out with the Blue Angels and the F-15s and the Canadian fighter pilots when they'd come down for an air show. And like, yep, this is it. That's all I'm going to do. And I wasn't the best kid in school. I wasn't the worst, but I wasn't the best. And when I was 18, everybody was applying for college. And I'm like, have fun with that. I'm going into the Navy. So I went to apply for the Navy and found out that apparently the Navy didn't think it'd be a great idea to have somebody with Tourette's flying a multi-million-dollar aircraft. And that
Weird.
was weird, right? That was the first time it ever dawned on me like, oh, you really can't just do whatever you want. There's going to be roadblocks in your life. There's going to be things that happen. And like for me, that was kind of my first big wake up call. Like, oh, I need a contingency. And did I miss a window here? Because like I never thought about anything else. And I kind of say like I have Tourette's just casually because it's just something I've had my entire life. And I was diagnosed at 8, and my parents, they never allowed me to utilize it as a crutch. Um, I think being in education, I've seen a lot of students that have conditions of all sorts, and a lot of them can use it as a crutch. And I think that can be very negative because it kind of hinders you and holds you back. And my parents, like, it was just something that I had. And they never told me, like, you probably can't do this because you have this.
Yeah.
And when I remember walking away from the naval recruitment office with them going, yeah, you'll never fly a jet. You'll be lucky if you ever get into the military. I went, I don't want to be stuck on a boat peeling potatoes somewhere.
Yeah.
So plan B.
Right.
And I remember walking out and sitting down and going, what do I do? I have no path. I literally, from the time I had conscious thought, sentience, that's all I wanted to do was sit in the cockpit of a fighter plane
Yeah.
and fly. That's it. So I didn't know what to do. And I just kind of fell back on, like, well, what do I know? And my whole family was educators. Somehow my sister fell out of it and she went on to be a doctor. So good for her.
Good for you.
Um, I didn't have the grades for that. So I'm like, well, I applied to exactly one college and got in, and I was going to take this creative writing track because I loved writing, had this creativity, and was going through my freshman year of college. And my writing professor is like, you don't need a degree to do this. Like, don't waste your time or money to get a degree in creative writing. Like, oh, okay. Well, now what? So my summer between my freshman and sophomore year, I moved back home to La Crosse, and still no clue what I was going to do in my life. Like, absolutely no clue. And I felt lost because I
Yeah.
felt like all my other friends were like, I'm in college, I'm working towards finance, I'm working towards business degree, I'm working towards being a doctor. It's like, what am I doing? And I had no clue, and got a summer job. And fortunately I met my girlfriend who went on to become my wife. And I chose, I'm just going to be a teacher because it's all I know. It's all I
Mm.
know. My family's educators. Sure, I'd be good at it. Started coaching golf. Really, really enjoyed it. And we ended up getting married and decided, you know what? Let's just pack up and move across the country. Let's just go.
Yeah.
So we moved to Arizona and got teaching jobs down there. And I very, very quickly discovered, I'm not in this. It was right around the time that Common Core was coming out, and
Mm.
my brain and my personality is very much so, like, I like to ask questions. I
Yeah.
like to not challenge, but, like, if I can see a better way to do something, I'm gonna bring it up. And that didn't fly in education.
No.
Like, you just need to do what you're told and don't ask questions. And I went, all right. So I didn't re-sign my teaching contract after 2 years and sat there and went, well, what now?
So let me pause for a second because the thought that I just had, it's funny because, sit down, do what you're told. And your original pathway was sit down, do what you're told, because that's what the
Right.
military is.
100%. So maybe I dodged a bullet,
A bullet.
metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
But then again, maybe I could have pushed that to the side of my brain because I'd be flying a fighter jet. Like,
Right.
yeah, you know what? If you're
I
going to
mean,
give me the
maybe.
controls to this F-18, like,
Yeah. Fine.
sure, I'll do what you tell me to do. Just let me go fly that thing and have some fun.
Yeah.
Um, so again, I like this common theme of, like, what am I going to do? I just don't have a path. And I discovered I really like technology. I've always been into tech. And I flew home for a holiday one time, and I was talking to one of my uncles who was a network architect for Best Buy. Like, how do you do that? Like, how do you get into that? And he goes, you just got to start at a help desk job somewhere. Okay,
Okay.
time to start over. So I just started applying for help desk jobs and got a job as a computer technician for a school district. And I went, this is it. Love it. I will definitely keep doing this. I fell into it, loved it, was working at a school district, and went, I want to be an IT director because my dad raised me with this mentality of always be happy with where you're at, but always be looking for what's next. How can you continue to grow? And I feel like sometimes people fall into this level of complacency where they're like, yeah, I'm happy. It's like, yeah, but can you do more? And I don't know if that's just like my inherent wiring of my brain. It's like, I just always want to be doing something, like always looking for what's next. And maybe maybe that's not how some people are wired, but I always encourage everybody that I meet, be happy with where you're at, but always be looking for what's next. And that, I think that the way that my dad broached that with me really kind of changed my perspective on like pursuing opportunities in life, because I've always been open-minded to things. I'm always curious about what's out there and what's going on and how can I be a part of a million different things despite only having 24 hours in a day to do any number of things. So I went, cool, I want to be an IT director. So I started working towards that and really kind of mentored under the IT director at the time. And he pulled me into his office one day and went, hey, just want to give you a heads up. I'm leaving and I'm going to recommend you for my position. I went, awesome. Right around that exact same time, my wife calls me up and says, hey, you want to go bowling tonight? I'm like, yeah, let's go. Man, I didn't really want to go bowling, but like, yeah, we haven't done anything in a while. And she's like, come on, come bowling with me. Like, I don't want to go. And she was, come bowling with me. Okay, fine. So I went bowling and met somebody there who, you know, when you meet somebody in life and they just have the same energy level as you,
Mhm.
like you can't really explain. You just like see them. You're like, that's my person.
Mhm.
Met somebody like that and really, really, really hit it off. And asked him what he did. Said, how'd you get here? Told me what his job was, and I went, oh, you sell technology to schools. That sounds cool. Let me know if anything comes up. And I think it was probably within a 2 or 3 day period of when my IT director pulled me in and he went, I'm going to recommend you for my job. This guy calls me up and he goes, hey, there's a job opening. My boss wants to meet you. I'm like, all right, cool. So I went and met with him and had, it was the most fascinating interview I've ever had because it wasn't an interview. Every time up until then, every interview that I've ever had was like question, 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 question. This guy flew in from California to have lunch with me. We just sat down and he just talked to me. Very similar to how our first conversation was. We just
Yeah.
talked. And I left that going, God, that job sounds fascinating. 2 days later, found out my wife was pregnant with our first daughter. And a couple days after that, that guy calls me up and goes, hey, the job's yours if you want it. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I turned it down and went, I can't because I'm in line for the tech director position. I'm about to have a kid. Like all of this stuff is happening and a career change just isn't in the cards for me. And about a month later, 2 months later, IT director left and they cut his position. And they went, we're not going to have an IT director anymore. I'm like, shoot. What now?
What do I do now?
What do I do now? Like now I was quite literally in a dead end job. Yeah, I was happy. I loved it. Absolutely loved that job. But my brain was like, what's next? What can I do to be better? How can I move on from this? And I physically couldn't. And I went into a deep spiral because I just had no path. And like I'd constantly been hitting this like roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. And how am I going to pivot? How am I going to adjust from this? And I remember very vividly in like January of 2015, sitting at my desk, being miserable, sulking, feeling sorry for myself. And I'd gone through this whole period of time, especially over the holidays. Like, I don't know what it is about the holidays where they just kind of have that mental drain. And I got back from it. I'm just like, oh, I don't want to sit here at this desk and do the same thing for the next 20 years. Something hit me. It's like, you know what? I think I missed my opportunity in life because I talked. You hear a lot of elderly people talk about like the one pivotal moment in their life or the one person that they met that changed their life. And I said, what if I missed my opportunity to do something cool, to be better, to start a new career path? And I opened up my email and I sent that guy an email and went, hey, he's now one of the most important people I've ever met in my entire life. Like I can target 3 or 4 influential people. His name is Mark. And I typed an email up to him and said, hey, Mark, never had the opportunity to tell you why I turned this job down. And I explained to him in full detail about what I was doing career wise, about my kid being born, about my hesitations getting into sales. 3 minutes later, he replies back and he says, hey, job's open again. I'm going to fly into town tomorrow. We're going to have coffee. So we sat down and had coffee and he said, job's yours again if you want it. I recommend you don't turn it down. And I didn't. And it went on to be the most important decision I've ever made in my entire life because I was feeling sorry for myself and I decided to act on it
Mm.
and say, how can I do something to change where I'm at. And just the simple act of sending an email. Granted, there's a whole lot of influences on the other end, but I did something about it. And it fundamentally changed the trajectory of my life for the positive. But in the process, also created the opportunity for some of the most horrific things to happen in my entire life that also really sort of built up who I am. For 7 years, I loved it. I worked with the largest school districts across Phoenix with their technology
Mm.
implementation. Like it really drew on who I was and what I love to do. Built some phenomenal friendships and relationships. But around 2018, something won't really get too much into it, but something really, really traumatic happened that that kind of fundamentally shifted a lot of who I am and how I view life, relationships, business, work life balance,
Mm.
um, it actually it put me into therapy for about 4 years, 5 years, twice a month for 5 years to kind of work through. I was actually diagnosed with PTSD as a result of what occurred, and it was the driving force behind what caused us to pick up and move back home to Wisconsin.
Mm.
And again, that was another pivotal change. It's like I remember sitting there going, "I'm about to pull the plug. I'm about to, eject
Yeah.
from this life that I built down here. We're doing well, making infinitely more money than I ever thought I possibly would have. Because as an educator, you can look at your pay scale and go, all right, when I'm 60, I'll be making that much.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I can ever do." And it was the most fascinating thing to sit there and actually have that conversation with myself and go, yeah, I'm going to give it up. I'm going to give it up because I need to do it for myself. I need to do
Hmm.
it for my kids. I need to put myself in a better position. I need to put my kids in a better position. And we got back to Wisconsin and I felt lost, like horrifically lost. I knew I'd done the right thing, but I felt lost again, like back to square one, like building something up and then discovering, crap, what now?
What do I do now?
So I took a massive left turn career wise. And I did some independent consulting for a while and just sort of like took a breather right around that same time when we were moving back. I had a couple of really intense cancer scares
Mm.
where fortunately everything came back fine. But I remember my doctor very vividly sitting me down going, you need to slow down.
Mm.
You're going to have a heart attack or a stroke or both. So I took 2 years and just sort of like lived and kind of re-grounded myself and did some consulting with a business. And they asked me if I wanted to go to an event back in Arizona. It's like I could just never get away from Arizona. I was always going back.
Yep.
And I didn't really want to go because I'd been traveling a lot. And I don't like being away from my kids. I don't. My kids are amazing. I love, like, everybody says their kids are awesome, but like they're so good at sports or athletics or school. It's like, yeah, but mine are fun to hang out with.
Yeah.
Like
Mine are good
I
humans.
I love hanging out with my kids. It's the most fun I ever have. Two best parts of my day are dropping them off at school and picking them up because they're
Yep.
just fun. I hated being away from them, but I went, you know what? I should probably go to this event. So I went to the event and again, found a person that was just my energy. Um, but I was trepidatious about it because that person that I told you about before, who was just my energy, ended up being an extremely destructive force in my life, like
Mm.
extremely destructive, and one of the few people I've ever had to cut out of my life. But this guy, former police homicide detective from Phoenix, like older guy, just awesome. And we just hit it off. And he said, "Hey, next time you're in Phoenix, call me up. We'll go out for breakfast." And he worked for, at the time, my major competitor that I competed against in Arizona. And I went, "Oh, this is interesting." Kind of connecting with people that I've always done business against. So 2 weeks later, I was back in Arizona again
Again.
and called him up. I'm like, let's go have breakfast. Like, so he's sitting down and having breakfast and just kind of like going through this same process. How'd you get here? Like, I asked him that question. How did you get here? Like, you're in the AV business. You used to be a homicide detective for the Phoenix PD. Like,
Yeah. How?
how? And we were sharing stories, and he stops me mid sentence and he goes, "Hey, you should open an office in Wisconsin." I'm like, I can't do that. And I caught myself and I went, wait a minute, no, don't say no to things. Don't just shut it down because you could miss out on something great. And long story short, went home, talked to my wife about it. And 3 months later, we were offered the opportunity to become a partner in this business and open an office here and cover Wisconsin and Minnesota and Illinois and work with businesses and schools with their technology design and integration. And, it's definitely challenging, but I again, stop and sit right here and go, why, how did I get here? How am I talking to you? Had I not gone to this business event where I met Becky and Becky connected me to you? Like
Right.
it's just fascinating to sit down and think about all of the things that have happened in our life and the influence that they've had, because I think a lot of people tend to think that life is very linear, and it's anything but. And if you're just willing to like open up and look at the things that happen in your life, and not be negative about it, but like look for the positive and stuff, um, and keep an open mind to things. Like it's just, to me, it's just fascinating. So I know that's like a 15-minute
I
answer to
love
your
it.
question of like, who are you?
Who are you?
I think there's so many things that have fundamentally shaped who I am,
Yeah.
and you see it in my business practice, and when I sit down with all my salespeople and all my operations people, I try to get to know them on like their fundamental level,
Hmm.
because creating a business and like saying, here's your rigid guidelines is a recipe for disaster. And I want to get to know them. I'm friends with everybody that is in my business, literally friends with them. And it's not because I
Wow.
hire my friends, it's because I get to know the people and like I genuinely care about them and their family and their livelihood and all of that. So I try to instill like, here's the things that have happened in my life. Something that really fundamentally shaped who I was at 12. Um, again, another decision that I just haphazardly made. When I was 12, I was a good kid. Well, my dad will probably tell you otherwise, but I just decided one day to not go home from school. Like I'd never done that before. Had just never not gone home from school. And I just decided to go to a friend's house instead. Didn't tell my dad. We didn't have cell phones then. I'm like, nah, I'll figure it out later. He didn't live within walking distance. It was like 20 miles away. I just went home with him. And we're sitting downstairs playing video games, and the phone rings, and his mom comes down and goes, Eric, your dad's on his way. I'm like, crap,
Oh.
busted. Fully expecting to get an absolute reaming when I get into the truck. I get in the truck and he gives me a hug and he goes, something happened. I'm like, oh, did grandpa die? Because I know he'd been kind of sick. He goes, no, Rob died. Rob was my stepdad. I'm like, did he get in an accident? He goes, no, killed himself. And I'm glad that you're safe, because I was supposed to go to Rob's house after school that day. And it was determined that he killed himself right around the time I would have been getting home. So, again, those little changes that you make in life just lead you to where you're at, and they shaped who we are. And I remember as a kid, especially coming into middle school, when kids are very susceptible to like self-esteem and those suicidal ideations. I just remember one comment from my parents that has resonated with me, not just about suicide but just in life, is like, when I asked like, why did he do it, they just said, because he chose a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And I've held on to that, just
Mm,
not necessarily through like emotional duress, but like,
right.
don't choose a permanent solution for some. All problems are literally temporary.
Temporary.
So, but yeah, that's the
I
really
love it.
rambling answer to your question of who I am.
I love it. And what I love the most about your story is that throughout your life, you have been greeted with the potential of a different version of you. Like, that's what all of those stories are. You were greeted with an opportunity to greet a new version of you. And instead of making yourself wrong or going against it or even stopping and looking at the opportunities, you just said, well, I'm just going to take the next right step and see what happens. And I
Yeah,
think that's where people they just get stopped up. They stop when they are greeted with an opportunity because it seems too big or it seems too small or it seems unrealistic or like a pipeline dream or XYZ. Like, there are so many people who put names to their limitations. Like they just limit themselves. And every time when you were greeted with it, when you were greeted with the opportunity to meet a new version of yourself, you're like, uh, I'm just going to take the step and see where it goes. And, I think one of the things that you and I talked about is that the graveyards are filled with stories. There's more stories in the graveyards. I forget who said the quote. I do this all the time. Somebody said the quote, like, graveyards are filled with some of the best stories, some of the best inventions, some of the best
Yeah.
things because people refused. And your story is so powerful because of that. Like, you just, instead of being like, why, I think this is what happens to people, right? They something happens and they go, why is this happening to me? Instead of what you do, it's like, well, what am I going to do now?
Right. Well, and I think the powerful perspective is it's not happening to you, it's happening for you.
Yes.
And I look back at what happened, that put me into therapy, and it was a very poignant reminder of I have one of two options. One option is to do nothing, and the other option is to move forward. And you have to look at it and say, okay, I can play the victim. And I think in this society, we tend to play the victim. People like to play the victim. It's the cheap dopamine hit, is
Mm-hmm.
what it is, because it's easy. It's the easy path, and I think human nature is wired to take the easy path. But that's never where anything good is. And I I I will, till the day I die, tell people that going through counseling and therapy was the best thing I ever did for myself. It was the most expensive thing I've ever done because I didn't just like go to, the therapy place around the corner. It was I researched who's going to be able to help me with this exact problem and help guide me through this.
Mm-hmm.
And it was uncomfortable. It was very uncomfortable because I was born and raised, Lutheran. So, within any guidelines of religion, there's always like ethics and morals that you're raised with. And like
Yeah.
you have to start questioning and challenging some of that and figuring out how does my new form of my life align with what I was. So you have to start stripping some of this down and rebuilding it in a way that aligns with who you are, because I think that we tend to fight against ourselves too often, and we're trying to stay within a shell that we no longer fit.
Mm-hmm.
And doesn't mean that you have to abandon them. You just need to have them grow with you. So anytime that I come across someone that I know or love who's struggling with something, it's like you got to get into some counseling or some therapy, and especially men, like it's not a weakness.
Amen.
It's definitely not a weakness, because there's no there's I don't want to say zero, but I'm pretty sure it hovers right around 0% chance that you're going to come out worse than
Yeah.
going in.
Yeah.
So, you have two options: do nothing and don't get better, or even if you take an incremental step forward, like it's worth the effort, it's
Yeah.
worth the time. But always keeping your eyes open and your mind open to like who. It sounds manipulative, and I don't mean it to be that way, but like these people that you meet in your life, how can they help better you?
Mm-hmm.
People come into your life for a very specific reason, and I, I
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Sometimes it's a good reason, sometimes it's a bad reason, and even the people that come in and inject stress and trauma to your life, yeah, it sucks that it happens, but it happened for a reason, for you to learn and to grow. So if you take the victim mentality of like, why is all this negative stuff happening to me? Well, then more negative stuff is going to happen to
Mm-hmm.
you. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's this. I do this experiment with my kids. We're teaching them about perception and how what you think manifests in your life around you. So we did
Mm.
this experiment, and I don't remember who did the original experiment, but I saw it and went, I'm going to try this with my kids.
Yeah.
So I had them look around the room, and then I said, I want you to look for all the red stuff, and then close your eyes and like tell me all the red stuff that you saw. Said, okay, keep your eyes closed. Tell me everything that was green, and they couldn't tell me a single thing. It's like
Mm.
because you weren't looking for it.
Mm-hmm.
Look for positivity, look for good things, and you're going to find more good things. Look for good people, surround yourself with good people. Look for the good in an opportunity, even if the opportunity sucks. Like
Right.
sometimes you're just going to be dealt a crap hand.
Yeah.
And how can you make the most of it, because you can't undo it?
I think a lot of people, when they are dealt a crap hand, and that's one of the, things that we bonded over, it's like this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. And because we've both gone to a lot of therapy and we've seen the good in all of the bad, it's the victim mentality and how comfortable it is for people. No one wants to stop. No one wants to pause long enough to be like, actually, that was a really, really good thing. um, I've started doing this technique where it's like if something bad is happening, I'm like, I can't wait to see the fruits of this labor.
Yeah.
Instead of
It's
dwelling in it, it's like, what is going to come next? Like something beautiful and wonderful is coming because I've had this experience, not this happened to me and now I need to burn the world down.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too that's really powerful is if you look at every situation in your life when the end goal is experience,
Mm-hmm.
everything becomes a win.
Mm,
Because
that's
if you go
powerful.
into something, it's like even if it's bad, like all right, well I have the experience of that and I know I don't like that.
Yeah,
It's still experience. So you've learned and you've grown from
the
something.
experience.
It's I don't know. I just
It's,
really I struggle with the victim mentality and the woe is me mindset and
yeah,
I get it. Like I still struggle with it. There's some days where I
yeah,
wake up trying to build a business and run a business is
yeah.
scary. And it's
Mm-hmm.
nothing that again, I never thought I'd be doing this ever. I don't have a
Yeah,
business degree. I just know that I can connect with people and I can help them solve their problems. So why can't I do it on a larger scale? And maybe
yeah,
that's just me like struggling to say like, no, I can't do this, but I can. I know I can. And if I apply myself, it's going to take time. But there's times where like I'll wake up in the middle of the night and going, what am I doing?
mm-hmm.
Why am I here? How am I going to get this done?
Yeah,
And I think it's safe to sit in those emotions for a little bit, but to not dwell and then kind of find a way to just redirect that energy into like, okay, um, I don't remember who told me this, but it's one of those, it's just that saying like when you get a certain age, you suddenly discover that nobody knows what they're doing. Like I turned, I
literally
turned
no, no,
40.
no idea.
I turned 40 at the end of this week. So like I'm enjoying
Ooh,
the last week of my 30s and,
happy early birthday.
everybody's like, "Are you scared about turning are you scared about turning 40?" I'm like, "No, why would I be afraid of turning 40?"
Yeah.
Some of my cousins and their friends are turning 30 and like, "Oh, I'm dreading turning 30." I'm like, 30 was some of the best stuff in my life happened. My kids were born, career change. 40, feel the exact same way about it. And I also look at it, it's like it's a privilege to be able to turn 40. I have friends who died when they were 18.
Yeah.
Like not everybody gets to be young, not everybody gets to be old.
Amen.
So I I I have no qualms about it. So um it's yeah, life is interesting.
It is.
Just
I think one of the points that you made that I kind of want to highlight is that there's people who see people who are changing the world, who are making an impact and making a difference, and they think that they're untouchable. They think that nothing happens to them, and they think that the bad thoughts just disappear. And I'm sure with all of the mindset work that you've done, you know this too. Like they don't disappear; they show up every now and then. And the key part that you said is you can't dwell in them. All
yeah.
emotions are important. They all are they're a symptom, right? They're a symptom of something larger. Very similar to like when you have a cold, it's a symptom of something, like something's happening to your body. Your body's fighting, etc. And it's just really important for people to hear that even the people who are doing the hard work still have those moments. But the
Oh,
key is they factor out of them much faster. They move out of them much faster. And you're allowed to be sad, you're allowed to be mad, you're allowed to be frustrated, you're allowed to be all of these feelings. You're just not allowed to live there. You're not allowed to unpack
right.
and set up the stage. And it's
Because it's easy and I think we as society have been conditioned to feel that way.
mm-hmm,
And I think that it's as much as I love it, social media is some of the most damaging stuff out there because I think people tend to forget that we're only seeing a curated perspective of these people's lives.
yeah,
And I think once you can understand, like, man, bad stuff happens to these people too. And it's just as bad as the stuff, if not worse than some of the stuff that you're dealing with. They just don't highlight it.
right.
And think the other thing too that I love talking to students about is this concept of I share my story and like how I thought I had my whole life planned. Literally thought I had my whole life planned out. So I'll ask students like, raise your hand if you know exactly where you're going to be when you're 40. A couple hands go up and like, I'm going to be a vet. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a bit like, okay, cool. Chances are pretty low.
Yeah.
If you make it, amazing. Can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah.
But here's how life is probably going to play out. You have to keep your mindset open. And I think the power of a positive mindset is so incredibly powerful because it allows you, like you said, to be able to factor out of those negative thoughts much quicker. I think it's okay to label them. We say this with our kids all the time, even ever since they were little and they started throwing those fun tantrums that kids have. We would calm them down, and when they were done, they would apologize and like, it's okay. Emotions are hard.
Mm.
And my oldest is almost a teenager, and she'll still have that, and she'll still fall back on that. Emotions are hard. And now we get into with hormones. It's like hormones are hard. So we
Yes.
fall back on that. And like I tell myself that too. Like I'll spiral. Like
Yeah.
I still get into the dreaded emotional woe was me spiral, but it's like it's all right. This is tough. I'll figure it out.
One of
Because
the
I don't
things,
have another choice. Like you
yeah,
don't have a choice.
you don't have a choice. One of the things I say to my kids too, we have the emotion conversation a lot, and they are vastly more knowledgeable on emotions than I ever was at their ages of 7 and 9. Um, but I've started saying to them even, like, this is my first time being this age too. Like, this is my first time having this experience. This is my first time having to figure this out. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, because like our parents never told us that. They never told us that, it's hard being a parent, or it's hard having these experiences. It's your first time being 37, it's your first time being 40. Like, and now that I've started saying it out loud to them, like that gives me a little bit more grace too.
Yeah.
I'm like, this
Well, and
is,
you look at it from the perspective of the kid too. Like we have two
yeah,
kids, both girls.
yeah,
When we come across a situation with our oldest and we don't react the right way, and then the same situation happens later with our youngest, we react differently. She goes, well, you didn't respond that way to me. It's like, because you were the first person to go through that situation. We've never had a 12-year-old before.
yeah,
We've never had a 10-year-old. Well, now that our youngest is 10, hey, we've done this before. So we're more
right,
comfortable in it. So, you
yeah,
know, being the oldest has its perks, but it also has some drawbacks to it as well. And
it does.
uh, it's important to maintain that levity. And I think as I crest into my 40s here, I'm excited for it.
Yeah,
I'm pumped to see what's coming because you always hear people like, oh, 40s, life is whatever. They make something up. It's like, I'm fine. I'll be all right. This is gonna be great.
yeah, yeah. I think it's a different way to embrace life. I think about too with the 40s. A lot of my friends are in their 40s and have entered their 40s over the last few years, and um, I remember when our parents entered their 40s and they had the like over the hill death parties, like you're gonna
Yes.
die soon and all of that. And I'm like, this is just the best is yet to be. Like, what am I gonna do now?
Do you remember this was really popular in the late 90s, the sunscreen song from
Sunscreen
Baz
song.
Luhrmann?
Uh-uh.
So I think it was the one of the top songs in 1999. It's essentially this like commencement speech put to music.
Oh
And this
yeah,
guy,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
So one of the lines that always sticks out to me in that was like, don't feel guilty if you don't know what you want to do with your life. The most interesting people I know didn't know at 22 what they wanted to do with their lives. And some of the most interesting 40-year-olds still don't.
Still don't.
Still don't.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if running a business is what I'm going to do the rest of my life. Who knows?
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's made life so much fun is you just keep an open mind about things that come across your table and go, that's interesting, and explore it and discover like, oh, this could be a really cool opportunity, but be willing to deconstruct your mindset because if you're dead set on going one path, you might miss out on a lot of other really cool stuff in your life.
Gosh, that's powerful. That is super powerful. Then what am I gonna do next? Like
Yeah.
what and I think that's my favorite part of your story is like it started off as what am I going to do next, like oh crap, what am I going to do? And now it's like, what am I going to do next? Like, what do I get to do next? And it's empowering and it's powerful. And I think, that's one of my favorite parts of your story is that you entered the arena, pivoted, and moved. And that's what a lot of people need to hear. They need to hear it's possible. They need to hear it's not the end, that the world is not falling apart, it's not failing. We're not failing. It's just you got to take the next right step. And more people need to hear that on a regular basis. So I'm super excited that I got to share you with my people, share your story, because I know that there are going to be people who listen to this who are in the thick of it, who are in the thick of something. And it's going to be encouraging to them to take the next right step. So thank you so much for being here, in my space, for being a part of my world, being one of my people. One of the things that Eric and I bonded over is like you just meet people and you're like,
You're my person.
you're mine. You are now mine. You don't get to leave. You're mine.
I love it.
And it's just super powerful. And I'm excited to see what this year looks like for you, what your next right step, what you're going to do next. I know it's going to be powerful and it is going to help change the world. So thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate it. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for having me on.
Yeah.
And my hope is that just in sharing something, if even one person takes something from it, that's more than enough for me. Because, I just, like you said, I want people to know that, what, sometimes life feels pretty rough, but you'll make it through. You've survived every day up until now. The odds that you'll survive this one are pretty high.
Amen. Amen. Well, friends, I am going to link Eric's contact information in the show notes if you want to reach out with him, have a conversation, have a coffee, or you want to follow him, get some more words of wisdom. You will have all of that information in our show notes, and I will see you in the new year.